welcome everyone to this session today, and I'm so glad you are here, and I'm happy that you have actually taken an action step towards understanding what are the different options that you can go ahead with after your master's is done. Okay, so me and the other panelists today, your seniors, especially the people who are here from IBB, have come together to educate you what are the different options that you can go ahead with when you're done with your masters. So we have this a lot of hype around us, after you are done with your MSc, especially in research, that PhD is the only option, or PhD is something that I'm supposed to go with, or something that attracts your attention for some other reasons. Maybe it's the outcome, maybe it's the journey, maybe it's because you're going to go abroad, or I don't know what. But yeah, there's something that attracts a lot of attention from the students, especially. So we are here to tell you that yes, PhD is an awesome option, but there are other options, that you can actually go ahead with, and which have, similar career opportunities if you go with those options as well. What you need to understand before selecting an option is, are you really interested in the outcome? An outcome is not your educational phase. Outcome is not when you get your doctorate in your hand. Outcome is not the end of your education. Outcome is, what are you going to be after you're done with your education? What is the career that you're going to pursue after you're done with your PhD or your master's or your MTech or any other option that you choose? Outcome is what is going to stick with you for the rest of your life, the career that you're going to go ahead with. And you should be excited for that outcome. And if you see yourself excited for the outcome, then you're on the right path. Is that your passion? Is that your interest? Now, when I say passion, it doesn't mean that every day you wake up and some miraculous thing is going to happen and you're going to be happy. Every day is going to be adventure. No. Passion is doing the routine work without getting bored or frustrated with it. And when that happens, that means you're really interested in it. That is your passion. That is what you want to do rest of your life. And you're going to be 100% productive in it. Okay. Understand where you're going to land and then go for the option. Okay. Goal setting. This whole process is known as goal setting. Visualize where you are going to be. Visualize what your end is going to be, and then reverse engineer your path towards it. Okay, so I'll briefly explain you what are the different options that you have in, say, your life after your master's, and how you can go about it. And then we will talk to our panelists who are here today, who have taken out their precious time to actually interact with you. So I'll encourage you to ask as many as questions possible, whatever doubts you have, whatever queries you have, because you don't get so many people, seniors together on one platform where you can actually put your questions and they're going to answer. Okay, so if you, after this session, if you randomly put an email to them, there's very less chances you might hear back from them. So, okay, so I'm sharing my screen with you all. I hope you can see it. Okay, so there are, these are certain options that I know about right now that I've been researching about. There might be more options apart from this, but so research. In research aspect, there is usually you can go into the academics or you can go into industrial. Academics means to say with the end perspective in mind, you will be employed in an institute, in universities. Industrial, you might work with industries. Okay. So how you can go with academics and what is, the future of it. So in academics, what you can mostly do is you can either go directly from the masters that you're in right now for a PhD, or most of your seniors have also gone into more specialized masters. Like I know one of my seniors who's doing masters in pharmaceuticals, one is doing in neurobiology, and then they went for PhDs. If you know exactly what you want to do, if you're aware about certain field that you're really interested in, you might go for a master's, but if not, you can directly go for PhD. Then comes postdoc. And then you will be appointed as, say scientific positions or professors, both together, as you know, it's in IBB. Or in industrial, you either go for MTech, then you go for PhD, or you directly go for PhD, then you're appointed as industrial scientist most of the time. So these two are very different approaches. Keep that in mind. What you can do is right now, if you're not very clear about what academics is and what industry is, but you're clear about, I am really interested in research and I want to go ahead with that. You can, of course, start applying for PhDs, and in that process, you might have more segregation of your thoughts, as in what is a better option for me with research wise. Okay. And you can even talk to your professors, as in how the life is different with respect to industrial and research scientist perspective. So industrial scientists, they mostly work on certain product that the industry owns, betterment of the product, having different variations with the product. Academic scientist, I'll say, is more independent. They have more orientation towards having their own projects, writing grants, having PhD students with them, and more that sort of work. Now, again, have this end in your mind. Are you really interested in being a scientist? Are you interested in having your own individual hypothesis, making them work and working for that, and writing and having your own students with you and working with them? Does this thing excites you, scares you? You don't know, you're blank? Be very, sorted with your thoughts. This is the research part of it. Next is, many people might also be interested in the administrative perspective, as in not exactly going ahead with the research, but now you have a core knowledge of a subject that is biotechnology. You can always go for MBA. Now, the MBA can be very specific, like MBA in biotechnology or MBA in general, like your HR, marketing, finance, the different branches in MBA that are available. Now, why I'm saying these two different things? Because take an example in mind. Even IIM is the best institute for MBA, we all know. Now, if say a person from engineering goes into IIM, and a person who has done plain BBA, that is, or bachelor's in business administration, then that person goes for MBA. An engineer and an automobile company comes for, say, campus interview. The engineer will be picked up first, and then preference will be given for the plain BBA student. Why? Because the engineer has more core subject knowledge. Okay, same ways, if you have done your MSc and you have core knowledge of biotechnology, and now you're going for MBA, you do have a greater chances, say, getting placed into pharmaceutical companies or different industries related to biology. Third thing that you can go for is patenting. Now, patenting also has a lot of different things that you can do. So there is patent officer, there's biopatent lawyers. There are more segregations to this, but these two are something that are, you can see very good right now. So we again have a lot of seniors who have gone into this as well. Okay, to become a patent officer, you actually have to take a diploma in intellectual patent rights. Okay, after this, this is something, this area of science is going to be very intense, because a lot of reading is going to go into this. You have to be aware of what patents are being approved, what research is being made, what knowledge is there in the public domain, if a patent can be accepted, what are the different laws. So this is going to be a lot of reading oriented and a lot of intellectual inputs that you will have to give. Again, whenever you're choosing a stream, whenever you're choosing what you want to be like, understand the job responsibilities of that. Just don't be attracted with the degree aspect, because degree is going to get over and then you have to start your career. So understand the responsibilities that you will be given once you are done with it and once you enter the field or the career field. Okay. The biopatent, so right, you can, in this case, you should go, you are supposed to go for LLB or LLM. Now, IIT Kharagpur has taken out a very, very good course right now for biopatent. Biopatent is especially for people who are from the, biosciences background, say your biotechnology or your pure like zoology, botany, everything like that. And this institute is especially for intellectual property right, is the prime focus for them. And there are very less institutes like this, and IIT Kharagpur is one of them. And you should really check it out, what other syllabus and what they offer from this. Then the fourth part over here is the scientific communication. There might be many of, from you who are really good in writing, English writing, understanding, comprehension. You have a lot of opportunity in scientific communication. There are different areas again in this. There's scientific writing, there's scientific editing, there's scientific journalism that has come up. So, whenever some publications have been made or some discoveries are made, there are certain specific people appointed to write about those. Because whenever some scientific discovery is made, you need a scientific person to have a good perspective out of it and, write something and give a good understanding of it to the common people in a language that they will understand. So that is also an upcoming field. And scientific illustration is not at such a field. I'll say there's, you can do it with certain other career of yours. Illustration is mostly like, making scientific drawings. So like comics, but in the scientific aspect. So it's just like a hobby, but it's something that is, you can see a lot of it on Twitter and everything like that. And there's one thing that I missed over here is the civil services. I actually didn't mention it here, but yeah, many of your seniors, like one of my junior, Aparna, she has gone into civil services. After your MSc or during your, fourth year, you can start applying for your, IPSC, UPSC, MPSC services. And they do have a field for biotechnology over there. So if you're interested in civil services, that is again a very viable and a very good option if you have inclination to that aspect. Okay, so biotechnology does have a path leading there. And the last option is completely changing your field. You see, before making this particular choice, you have to be really, really aware or really sure that you are not interested in this. Okay, this is a huge step, I understand. But what you have to do is think 10 years from now. Think at least 5 years from now. Wherever you are right now, okay, what is going to happen after 5 years? Do you see yourself somewhere? Okay, if you have decided I might do PhD, what after PhD? Does any picture show up in your mind? Okay, just don't be attracted to the superficial aspects like going abroad, getting placed into good top universities. Yes, it is a good point, but is that for you? Is very important for you to understand, because there are so many things that you can do with your life, and you don't have to define yourself with your education or whatever that you're doing right now. Of course, formal education is 100% important, but if you realize it's not something that you want to do, don't let that thing hold you back. Don't let that thing be a barrier. Don't carry the regret for next 50, 60 years that you're going to be on earth. Okay. But if you are sure about it, that what you're doing is right, then in that also there are so many segregations as we just discussed. There is research, administration, patent, scientific communication, civil services. So have a proper segregation of your thoughts. Have a goal for yourself. Write down your goals. That's very, very basic, very, I'll say very basic advice, but very important advice. We don't write down our goals. Okay, so saying that, so I will just, stop over here and I'll introduce you to our panel. So I again welcome you to this particular session where I just described you in brief what are the different options. You can connect with me if you ever want to in future, and I would help you in however way I can. So let's meet our panelists who are here, taking out their time from their busy schedule to actually guide you and help you. So first we have on panel is Anirudh Agnihotri, who is PhD student right now in Murdoch University, and his area of research is protein biochemistry. Next we have with us is Sonal Joshi, who's doing her PhD at International Center for Genetic Engineering and Biotechnology in Italy, and her research area is tumor immunology. Next we have with us is Nidhi Mote, who's doing her PhD at Max Planck Institute for Biomolecular Biomedicine in Germany, and her research area is in vitro angiogenesis model using synthetic hydrogels. And last we have with us is Ankit Roy, who's doing his PhD from Max Planck Institute of Molecular Physiology in Germany, and his research area is biochemistry and system reconstitution. So I welcome and thank you all four of you to actually, come here, take out your time. And so I would like to, ask you all, I don't know if I shared my screen for that. Okay, anyways. So welcome all four of you, and it will be great if you unmute yourself. And what I would like you to do is to, actually share your journey with all the students that we have here today. Because we all have this one particular perspective in mind when we are talking about PhD, that, there is a structured program, I need to make so many applications. We have this one narrow way of thinking when we are applying for PhDs, be it in India, be it outside India. So I would like you to share, because I know you all four are having different journeys when you went for PhD. You all four are having different experiences. So it will be really great if you all can share it with. So we'll start with Ankit. So how about you? How did you start with your PhD? How was your experience? And are you happy with what you're doing right now?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I always wanted to be in academic research, and like you said, like you pointed out previously, PhD is probably the first step that you take towards going to a academic research field. And I mean, as of now, it's been great with me, but I mean, I think this will be more evident during the discussion that we have. Things are not always daisies and sunshine doing a PhD, and there are always ups and downs. And maybe we will discuss about this later on, but I would just like to say that, and then we can move on.
Okay, great. So, Ankit, did you, get into
Mhm.
PhD did you have a time perspective in your mind that by this time I should get admitted and or should I give up? Because I understand you
Ah,
had,
okay.
right. So,
Yeah.
how was
Um,
your journey? How would you like to, tell people that it's okay to, keep working for something that you really want and the end is going to be the prize is going to be real good.
mhm. Okay. So yeah, I mean, this is probably, yeah, a very important point that you raised out. So I finished my master's in 2016, and I did not directly get admitted to the PhD course of my choice. So I was working as a project assistant in ICER for about 3 years, if I'm not wrong. Uh, and I was doing computational biology over there, and I wanted to do my PhD in synthetic biology, which requires experience in both computational and experimental biology. And after 3 years, I finally was able to get into a lab where I could do both. But yeah, it was quite difficult, especially when you are switching fields, because not all labs are very open-minded about whether they should be taking computational students for doing experimental stuff. But and I mean, we can also discuss this further in details. But yeah, like you said, so yeah, I knew what field I wanted to do my PhD in, and for me, time was not a constraint because I don't see the point in that being a constraint because it's I mean, the only difference that it might happen is that you get your own lab, you become an independent researcher after a few more years, but that's about it. Other than that, I don't know if I mean I was still earning, I was financially stable, so it was fine for me.
Right.
And yeah,
Right. So what you're seeing here is that if you really know that what you want, it's okay to wait for it. But in that time, you should not be exactly ideal. You should be engaged in some sort of activities.
I mean it's good. I mean I won't say that it's necessary that you. I mean if you have a strong financial
Mm-hmm.
backbone, it's maybe it's fine if you are not financially stable but are still continuing to do research in some or the
Mm-hmm.
other form and working somewhere. I would say if you take the finance out of the picture, then I
Mm-hmm.
would say at least being constantly involved in active research is something that you should not leave if you want to be in the academic field later on, even before your PhD and after your master's. That not only helps uh, giving you experience, but also hones your skills as a researcher, makes you problem solve and reflects in a very positive way in your CV.
Right, right. Thank you so much, Ankit. So coming to Sonal, we understand even you had a different journey while getting into the, PhD institute. What would you like to say about this?
Um, okay. So my journey was different in the sense that the application processes I did, the way into I got in ICGB for my PhD was a little different because of the admission process. I had done many applications. However, in the first year, I did not get into PhD. But at the same time, I was working. I did a small internship in AgTrek, and then later I got into NCBS, and I was researcher, junior researcher there for a few months before I got into my PhD, which again, as Ankit pointed out, I wanted to be involved in research even when I was not in PhD while I was doing my applications in parallel. And in after 1 year, I started getting invited for the interviews. I had given 2 interviews, however, I did not get selected. One of them was Max Planck. I always knew that I wanted to do my PhD in areas related to immunology, perhaps join with cancer. So I was looking for the labs like that. And the lab which I am in currently is one I was reading about the person, I was reading about their publications and everything. So I got in touch with the person who liked my CV, who got in touch with me. I interviewed to this person, and that's how I got into PhD.
Right. So you're saying that structured PhD is one of the options, but being in constant contact, emailing the scientist specific to the areas that you love is an important part of it.
It is. It depends because it's a tiresome process because not everyone replies you.
Right.
You have to be persistent in writing if you really like, and there is another way. It's not bulk emails you send out. If you really like the person, you have to write in that sense. Make it specific for the person and not generalize it. And yes,
Right.
it is a way by which you can get in touch.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Sonal. We'll come back to you with some more questions. So I'll come to Nidhi. Nidhi, tell us about yourself, as in how was your journey different from these two? How did you get, your PhD admission, and was it quick? Was it tiresome? Or do you love the end product that is happening to you right now?
Yeah, so my journey was something similar to Sonal. So I was also applying from my last year, like my 5th year of my master's, and it is a tiresome process. So you have to send out many applications, and you never know. I mean, even sending personal emails, as well as I was applying to some structured programs as well. And then after I completed my masters, I still was not happy. I mean, with the applications, and I was still applying to many places. And then I also worked for a year as a junior research fellow at Agarkar Research Institute in Pune. And then I worked there for 1 year, and I was still applying. And then I got accepted for interviews for two programs in the Max Planck. One is where I am, and the other one is currently where Ankit is in Dortmund. And then so basically, I mean, I got admitted for a PhD through a structured program. And so I mean, that is one option to apply for a PhD, but like Sonal mentioned, that you can also send out personal emails to scientists which are specific for that particular scientist you are interested in. And yeah, so for me, it was also a tiresome process. Like, I mean, I was applying for almost 2 years, and then, but finally, when you get admitted to the lab which you want, I think it is worth it, because then, I mean, it's worth to wait for the lab which you want to apply. I mean, where you want to work and the field in which you want to work. So, yeah, so that is what I want to say, that you should just keep trying and keep applying and keep on improving your applications and get opinions from others, like your seniors or your friends, and try to improve your SOPs or your motivation letters. And yeah, just don't give up if you really want to do a PhD.
Right. Thank you so much, Nidhi. So coming to Anirudh, you have also had a very different way in which you got admitted for your PhD. And you are right now, if I understand, in your 4th year. So you have something, to tell people as in how your journey is, this 4 years are not easy for any PhD student. Because getting admission is one hurdle, but completing those 4 years is next hurdle. There's going to be so many different emotions and things attached in those 4 years. So what was your experience? How did you get that particular position, and how the 4 years have been for you right now?
Well, thank you so much. I would need to write an entire book. You have to summarize my journey, but yeah, making it short, my getting this position for me was a bit different than usual. I was writing a review during my MTech, which I published it out just after my MTech. Or I think I and Ankit, we both were writing a review with Rakesh Joshi, Dr. Rakesh Joshi. And while doing that, I was summarizing some papers, some research articles for that review. And I came across with multiple papers from one author, which is my supervisor now here. His name is Dr. Vizu. So he had published few articles in that topic, and I had a lot of doubts while reading those articles, as in conceptual doubts, like how did he do that experiment? How did he came to that conclusion by the results and all those things? So to clarify that doubt, I just thought that I should write a mail to him. So I just wrote a mail, and he was nice enough to reply me back within few days. He clarified my doubts, and since then I started being in contact with him for that particular topic, asking different questions about the experiment, and there was no intention in my mind to ask for a PhD position there, because I was not even thinking about that. I was totally focused on my MTech and my review article. But this lasted for an entire year. I was in contact with him every now and then. After a couple of weeks, I used to mail some doubts to him, and he used to answer back it to me. And then after some time, after a year or so, he invited me invited as in he asked whether you would like to do PhD in my lab. And I was fascinated. It was exciting for me that some scientist is asking me for a PhD for a position. And but then since then I had started applying for other positions as well. But you know how it is difficult. It's not that easy to get a PhD position. And I took that opportunity. I applied. He took a formal interview. Then I applied for the scholarship here in this university. I got the scholarship and I got the position. Then coming back to your second question, when I came here, I started my PhD. I'm doing a PhD in protein biochemistry, by the way. I work with insect proteins. So this 4 years has been a very colorful journey, I would say, if I have to explain in that words, because I have seen every aspect of PhD, and I still think that there is more to come in my plate. I have seen a lot of challenges. I've seen a lot of failures. I have seen some success as well. But what I would tell is PhD is not an easy journey. I don't want to discourage anyone here, especially who is in the process of application. But I think everyone here, all the panelists, and even you, Mukta, you will agree that PhD is not an easy journey. PhD asks a lot of things from you. It's not just academics. It's not just intelligence. It's not just hard work. It also asks your patience, which is the most key thing I consider while doing PhD, because success is very rare when you do such research. And so anyone who is thinking whether I should do PhD or not should ask these questions to himself or herself, that how good you are with patience, how easily you get fascinated when you don't get successful results, when you don't get good results when you're doing experiments. And if you are not that good, it doesn't mean you shouldn't do PhD, but you should definitely improve in that then, because you will get easily frustrated when you will start your PhD. And as far as I think you will have this question for later in this interview, but I'll just hint it here that there are two different types of labs. One is a very established lab, which has a lot of things into it going on. There are postdocs. There is a principal supervisor. There are senior PhD students. So when you go in such labs, there are people who will help you. But there is another type of lab which is recently established, or even if it is established quite long ago, but still the lab is small. There is probably just 1 or 2 PhD students working there, no master students, no postdoc. And I belong to such lab. My lab is not new. It's a bit old lab, but the problem is, it's not a problem. It's the style of my supervisor that he tried to keep the group as small as possible and gives everyone individual topics for research. He doesn't mix 2 different topics between 2 different PhD students. And in that case, you are independent totally. Whatever challenges you have in front of you, you have very few people around you to actually help you. I mean, either by doing the experiment or by giving intellectual inputs apart from your supervisor. So it gets difficult. But yeah, it's been very exciting. I'm happy about it.
That's great. Thank you so much, Anirudh. So what we understand right now from all four of them is, I would especially, tell this to all the participants here, that there's no one way in which you can apply to PhD. There are structured programs, there are independent programs, every scientist comes out with independent advertisement as well. And there are also ways where you can, without any intention or without any having any thought of, I want to go for PhD and that's why I'm going to come and start communicating, start praising the scientist. Oh, you're so good, your publications are so good, and then clearly, subtly hinted in after one or two emails that I want to do PhD with you. That might not look that good, because what I understand is people outside are very direct. If you really want a PhD position over there, go for it, ask them. If you are really contacting them for some research related problems or discussion, be direct with that. But the main thing over here is start establishing your contact with people in the field that you're really interested in. Now, this doesn't have to, you don't have to construct yourself only abroad or only India. Have a mix thing of it. India has absolute brilliant institutes where you can do your PhD, and it will be more worthwhile, say, compared to certain institutes outside India. So it purely depends upon the lab that you're doing your PhD in. Okay, say for masters, you obviously look for the ranking, because in that case, it's a collaborative effort. How many international students are there? What type of faculty will be there? What are the facilities? So you go for the ranking. But when you're going for PhD, it's majorly the lab that you're going to work with, because you're going to stay with the guide for next 4 to 5 years, so they are like your husband, your wife. You're going to spend so much time with them, their emotions, their mood, everything what you have, you're going to affect each other. So you have to be comfortable not only with the person, but with the subject that you are choosing. Okay, because you're not going to have a classmates over there. You're not going to have your groups where you can, go outside in the canteen, just say that person doesn't know anything, come back, attend the class and be normal with it. No, you have to be really, really committed to that topic, have pure intentions for it. So understand what is the gravity of doing a PhD. It's a 4 to 5 years commitment of your life. There will be a lot of things involved in it, a lot of efforts, hard works, emotions, finances, everything is going to go into it. So that being said, as we were discussing, that there are a lot of different ways, and you have to be in contact with the scientists, start contacting them. And as Sonal also mentioned, don't just do bulk email. Okay, people can easily spot out that. Okay, a lot of time what happens, it happened with me. When I started with this, I started with bulk emails, and a lot of time I was calling ma'am, sir, ma'am, because I didn't know, I couldn't recognize, because I was just going for bulk emails. And that gives a very bad reputation of, what you're doing with it. So understand which scientists you really want to work with. See if they have positions available. Tell them your positive points. Tell them why you are supposed to go there. Explain your side to them, and of course, if they're interested, they see your work potential, they will contact you back. And even have this in mind: if you're emailing 100 people, only 15 to 10 are going to reply you back, out of which 50% are going to be negative replies, as in, no, we don't have a position. So even be ready for that. Don't get frustrated with it. It's a long journey. If you're lucky enough, people do get it after masters directly. But if not after masters, it's fine. It's just 1 year or 2 years of your life or 3 years of your life that you have to wait. But again, the wait is justified when you're really interested in the outcome. Okay. So that is there. And you also need to be, ready with a lot of things when you're applying for PhD. And these things should be ready before you start applying. And I know that many of you are not aware of it. It is your statement of purpose. It is your recommendations. You need to actually talk with the scientist or the professors, because what will happen is you are not going to apply for 1 or 2 institutes. You're going to apply for 10, 15, 20 institutes. And so are your friends. And you both might have a single person who's going to recommend you, and that person might get frustrated. So you have to actually intimate them very before in time that, okay, I'm doing such activity. You might receive a recommendation email from the university. Please respond. Be in good contact with the scientist. Be in constant contact, I'll say. Keep telling them what you're doing, because what will happen is they might feel that you are just coming them for the recommendations, and this has happened. So don't do that. Build a good relationship with the people you're expecting recommendations out of, and always keep a mix of recommendations, like one person who's your professor, one who has been your guide, and something like that. have your transcripts ready with you. Guys, transcripts and mark sheets are two different things. You have to actually apply to the university office for your transcripts. Okay, they are sealed copies of your mark sheet, not mark sheet, but they are the sealed copies, okay, of your marks, your grades. So apply. It takes around 2 to 3 months. So if you don't have your transcripts with you, and do it after your when you start applying for PhD. But yeah, transcript is the main thing. Your SOPs, recommendations, and your personal SOPs and your research experiences, gather everything together. Okay. So having said this, I have certain questions that people had sent me, and I like to ask our panel, and let's see what they have to say about this. So one of the questions that I received was that I am doing my research into a lot of variable fields. Okay, I'm trying to get experience into, say, plant biology, animal biology, and molecular biology to understand what I like. So the person is asking, is it recommended to get variable experiences before going for PhD, or is it recommended to stick to one particular area and develop my research experience in one area? So I would like to ask Nidhi, what do you think about this? How do you think this will affect? Is variable a good choice, or you say one particular field will be a good choice?
Okay, so actually, I would like to share my own experience here. So during my master's, so by the time I was like in my 4th or 5th year, then I had this feeling that I want to pursue neuroscience, and I want to do my PhD in neuroscience. And so I decided to do my MSc thesis dissertation in a lab of neuroscience. And when I was working there, I realized that I'm not comfortable to work with animal models. I mean, I was working with mice, and I realized that I'm not comfortable to do that. And then because of that, I mean, I would say that was the experience which helped me to decide that maybe that is not a good option for me to do as my PhD, because I'm not happy with the work which I have to do there. So I think, and then I shifted to another field, and then I decided that, I mean, that is what made me decide that I don't want to work with animal models, and I would like to do something in vitro model systems. And that is why I selected a lab right now for my PhD, where I'm working in that field. So I think having various experience is useful, which will help you to decide what you want to do further, because PhD is a long-term commitment. So if you're not happy with the kind of work you're doing, if you're not happy with the experiments which you have to do every day, then it will be, PhD is already tough. But if that is on top of that, if you don't like it, then it will be more difficult for you to go through it. So I think having various experience is important, and I think it will just help you to decide more, and it will make it more clear what you like to do for your PhD. So I think having various experience is better.
Thank you so much, Nidhi, for your opinion. Ankit, I would also like you to answer this question, because I understand that you had more of a computational experience, and you were applying for a lab in more of research experiment oriented, and it was difficult for you to switch. It was difficult, as you mentioned, it's difficult for the lab to accept. So what was your experience with this?
So again, this is a bit subjective. Depends what, I mean, like we discussed previously as well, depends solely on what you want to do at the end of all this. And that should probably like make you decide what kind of experiments or what kind of research you want to do before you start your PhD. So one of the good things is that even you guys, a lot of you guys are applying for summer internships. That's a good place where you can get a taste of working in different fields, different labs. But if you are having a drastic switch, like I did, from a computational lab to an experimental lab, it's very, very difficult for you to convince experimental biologists that you would be a good candidate in their lab. And the only reason I did that is because at the end of all this, I want to be a synthetic biologist. And this is where you require knowledge of both computational biology and experimental biology. But then again, applying is a completely, application process is a completely different experience, because of course they would pick students who have interests or research interests which align more closely to their labs. That just makes it easier. And it is less of a risk for the PI to choose a student who already knows techniques that are being routinely used in their lab. So it's a less of a gamble. So the only downside that you might have if you are switching from as big a field as a computation to experimental completely, then the only downside is that you need quite a robust way to convince them why you think that you might be a good fit for the lab. But again, I mean, depends. If there is also no reason to keep changing fields, if you already know what you want to do, let's say, for example, you want to do, I don't know, like computational protein design or something. If you know that, why would you do an experimental biology lab? You probably don't need to, because you need a lot of specialized skills to do a computational structural biology lab or a protein design lab. You need to know very good nonlinear dynamics. So maybe take a lot of physics courses, maybe do some internships in physics labs, do some quantum chemistry, and do basic biology. And if you know computer science, that's just cherry on the top. So depends on what you want to do. If you already know that, like, if you don't know what is the best field for you, you should definitely try to go and work in different labs and then decide before committing to something that you don't know anything about. But if you already know what plans you have, then I feel that, and if you can go through it without switching from labs, then I think it's a blessing if you don't keep changing labs, keep changing fields, because it just helps you during your application. But again, this is subjective and will depend on what your scenario is. So if you as of now do not know what is the best field for you, then I'm sure you should try out a few different things before you commit to a lab specifically. But if you do, just go ahead with it. Don't keep trying to expand your CV saying that, yeah, I know PCR, I know purification of protein, I know nonlinear dynamics, I know programming, I know how to build a spaceship, and so I am applying to you because I know everything. Don't do that, because yeah, you might know a little bit of everything, but it doesn't help you in the application process if there is another person who is very thorough for the things that are required in that specific lab. So yeah, make sure you try to balance these two things.
Thank you so much, Ankit. That was very helpful. And what I understand is both the things are important: taking a good experience of having a good understanding what you want to do, and then making your skills a bit more specialized in what you really want to do before you go for that.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Great. So coming to our next question, we had a question. I did, actually spoke about this, but I'll again like to ask. Many people are asking how important is the rank that you're applying to the university? Should I go for the only top 100 and below 400, 500 will not give me, my CV will not look good after that if I do my PhD from there. And many people also have construction of geography, as in people are behind university is in US because they have good ranks, because they have good facilities, and they do overlook certain good labs in other countries. Sonal, what do you have a take on this?
Oh, for me, in the beginning, yes, I also had the same opinion that university rank mattered, and the better the rank, the more research facilities would I have, and it would look better. This was my perception of it. However, when I started applying to other places, especially after my PhD journey has started, it's been a year. The thing which I have realized is, for me, it's my opinion that it does not matter what rank of the university you are in. As long as you have the research facilities in your lab, as long as you have inputs from your, you have all the help support from your PI, as long as you're able to manage your PhD very well, the infrastructure of the university, according to me, does not matter a lot. So what I want to say here is that I think the presence or the availability of the resources is enough to do a PhD. And the university rank itself is not a very big issue in that, or it should not be.
Right. So they should more focus on what are the accomplishment of the scientist that they are applying to.
Rather than accomplishment, I think the inputs which you get from your PI and how your interaction is more important.
Right. Okay. Okay. That's nice to hear. So coming to Anirudh with the same question. So what we understand is that you are, you face this particular dilemma while applying, that the rank of the universities, your scientist was pretty new in the field. So how did you make this decision to go ahead with this particular PhD position?
Yeah, so for my particular thing, I was really in a dilemma. I had multiple different suggestions from my peer group, from my seniors, from my faculty members, everyone. And to be frank, if I have to numerically represent it, that which one was, how many of them were favored, there was a lot of people who were favored in not going for a lab or a university which is not in so-called good ranking list. But I call it as a so-called good ranking list because PhD is a totally different level altogether. Because as Sonal pointed out correctly, that your lab infrastructure, your how capable your supervisor is, and of course whether he has funding or not. These three are the pillars on which your PhD is sustained. But a lot of these things are unknown to you until you go there and start working in that lab. So how would you find out these things before going there? And to be frank, there is no such way to find out whether your PI will help you or not. For funding, yes, you can find out. A lot of labs have their own web pages or have their own websites. And even if they don't have their own websites, they do have a web page which is connected to the university or the research institute in which they belong to. And in that, they have given their details about the funds that are currently available for that lab, which funds they have got for which project. So if I go back to your first question, where we all started, how would you, which are the different ways to application? And one of the most discussed way for today's session was about emailing scientists and asking for PhD positions. Why you shouldn't do bulk emailing is because this is the reason. A lot of scientists really don't have the position. And if they don't have the position, they will not even care to answer you no. Very few nice people who are really nice enough to give you no answer that, sorry, that's really nice of you to ask for the position, but I don't have the funding to get you here. They will answer you. But a lot of time you get no replies is because they really don't have the position. So it's very important, before you apply, you go to their websites and check whether they have position or not. If they haven't declared their web fundings, the other indirect way to get is how recently they have published in their list. If the recent publication belongs to this year, current year, then there is a high chance that the project is still going on. There is a high chance that there is a PhD student who is already working on that project. So it means that you will not be hired for that project. Is there a project which is declared on their website? Is there a topic which is declared on their web page, but there is no such project going on in terms of publication published? So these things are very important to know. Now, coming back to this question, whether rank is important or not, for me, I have a hybrid answer. I wouldn't say directly rank is not important, because rank do play some role. And how does it play a role? It plays a role by indirect ways. For example, high-ranking universities obviously have a very high intellectual, high qualified peer group around you, because there are strong filters to the universities through which the people go inside in that. So obviously, for example, if you go to a top-ranking university in US or in Europe or in Australia, anywhere, the scientists around you will all will be doing brilliant jobs. They will have a lot of good publications. So they will have a good influence on you as far as your social interactions is concerned. Whenever you will have some social interaction with these guys, they will have a good influence on you. But of course, this is a minor thing. major thing is the lab that you go in, the group that you enter in. Even if you have a very good peer group around you, but the lab that you are working is not that good, they don't have the required facilities, they don't have the proper funding, the scientist doesn't look to be that interested in giving suggestions, then you are in big trouble as a PhD student. So second thing you look for is, when you say required facilities, is by means look into their publications and see which are the important techniques that they use to do their research. For example, certain labs are totally dependent on electron microscopy things. Certain labs are crystallography labs. They depend on X-ray crystallographies or NMR, which are structural labs. They depend on such big techniques. Do they have these techniques in their lab or in the institute? If they don't have it, they have a collaboration outside, then you will be in trouble, because that collaboration is always from outside. You getting it? Maybe they are just doing initial work there, and then they are sending the samples to some other labs to do the job. So you will not be learning things there. So these things, so I'm sorry, I'm making it very complicated to understand the application and all these things, but this is what we are here. We are here to tell you something that you haven't thought of. And even probably we didn't thought of while we were applying, but now we realized it now after we are doing our PhD. So you have to consider all these things. So that's my take on it.
Thank you so much, Anirudh. So the next question that we received was, should I do PhD abroad or should I do PhD in India? So this is again a very, I don't know how should I describe this question, but yeah, I would like to hear your takes on it. So Ankit, what do you have to say about this?
I think you shouldn't decide it based on where you are doing your PhD. Maybe you should first try to narrow down into what fields you want to do your PhD in, and what are the roles that you want to take up after you finish your PhD. And well, I agree with this point to some extent that, yeah, someone can argue on an average, a university in India or an institute in India is not so good as compared to some of the westernized countries, or also, or for example, a lot of other countries in Oceania. So then the question comes up is that, but does that mean that all universities or institutes in India are just bad? I can guarantee you there are some institutes or universities in India that are way, way better than a lot of the ones that are, let's say, ranked in the top 500. So for example, I don't want to be vague here. Let me just name a few. So NCBS, ISER, close your eyes and get into one of these institutes. They are amazing. They do world-class research. People abroad know these institutes. My guide knows a lot of professors in NCBS, and they are just well known. They have good, stable labs. They publish a lot. They publish in very good journals, and yeah, they are doing very good for our country. And if you have a geographic, well, let's say you have a restriction that you want to be in India for whatever reason. For, I don't know, you want to be close to your family for some or the other reason, or whatever you want to do, there are options, very good options in India. So don't be discouraged. Don't just try to look abroad. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter where you're doing a PhD. And like a lot of other people have stressed over here, mainly the lab is what you should be looking for. And also something that Anirudh also brought up, yeah, to some extent, the ranking is also good. And it just gives you a slight more advantage if you're in a good ranked institute because of your peers that you are around with. And yeah, I mean, if you get a good institute which has a lab that you are interested in, plus it is also well ranked, well and good, just go there. Don't just say no because, yeah, it's a well ranked institute, I want to avoid those. So yeah, there are options. There are very good institutes in India as well. Just make sure you go into the ones that are good. There are more than NCBS and ISER. I just named these two because I personally have experiences with only these two, maybe to some extent TIFR as well. I don't know a lot about it. I know a few of my friends who are working there, but they have good experiences as well. So these are the institutes that just come from the top of my head, but I'm sure there would be more. But,
IISc also.
To some extent.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. Thank you
And
so
just small thing I will
Yeah.
add here
Yes.
as Ankit said, these institutes are really good, and don't down look to them just because they belong to our own country. It's really
Yeah, exactly.
it's really difficult to get in these institutes. So don't be ignorant upon this topic that they are Indian institutes, so it will be easy to get you in there. No, in fact, their
Yeah.
rejection rate is as good as what higher institute or higher universities have outside India. So they really have a very high rejection. So I would
Yeah.
say they would have a very low acceptance rate. Let's take it in a positive way. Yeah.
Right. Thank you so much, Anirudh and Ankit. So coming to our next question, we did, discuss this at the small part of it, but I'd like to have a good discussion on this. So there are two type of labs, anywhere that you apply. One is a very established lab with a lot of people working in the lab, and one is a very new lab where the scientist is new, or maybe they have a structure where they don't take in a lot of people in the lab. So, Nidhi, what do you have a take on this? How should a person decide when they are applying for the lab? So, because if a lab is of smaller people or a new lab, it might not have that many publications to look for. So, how does one come out of this dilemma?
So I think both these labs have their own pros and cons. So if you go to a small lab where there are very few people, then one advantage is that you have a direct interaction with your PI. So for my case, I am in a small lab, so I literally talk to my PI every day. She comes to the lab and she talks to everyone, which is not possible when you are in a very big lab. Then when you are in a big lab, then you are mostly supervised by some postdoc or a senior PhD student. So I think in that case, one disadvantage is that with your PI, you have a very less interaction. So I think, but the other point is that if you are in a big lab, then you have more inputs, more feedback, and more experienced people who are there to help you in your day-to-day experiments. So it's a very tough question because it depends on what you personally want. So it's a personal choice, I feel. And even if the lab is new and if there are no good publications, that doesn't mean that that lab is not good. Maybe they are just started and it takes time for a new lab to publish, right? So for a PhD student, the first PhD student takes at least 4 years for him to complete his project and then publish. So maybe for the first 4 years, that lab won't have their own publication yet. So that doesn't mean that that lab is not good. So you can still go there, and then it actually depends on also the lab environment which is there. So if for a big lab, it might be that there is more competition, or it depends from lab to lab. And I think it's a very personal choice of what you want to do, how you. I can't just give one answer, but yeah, it depends.
Right. Thank you, Nidhi. Asking you the same question, Sonal. What's your take on this particular thing?
I would agree with Nidhi completely on this because it's a subjective choice. You can't have one answer. Both the things have its positive and negative sides. Again, like Nidhi said, I think I'm repeating the same answer, but if you have a big lab where you are mentored by a postdoc or senior PhD students, you have more chances of getting feedbacks. You will be more giving inputs in others' projects, which may or may not enhance your chances of getting other publications. However, the downside to it would be you don't have direct contact daily on the daily basis with your PI. If you have a small lab, you would be directly in contact with your PhD students. However, it would be a small lab. You would mostly be in charge of your own project, and that would be it. So it again depends on how you want your journey to be. It would completely depend on that.
Thank you so much, Sonal. So I would like to ask a general question to all of you. Okay,
Can I say something
yes,
before we
absolutely.
go to the next question?
Absolutely.
About this particular question having a bigger or small lab. Just in whatever Sonal and Nidhi said, I completely agree with both of them. Just the third point of view I would put it here is in terms of application. Because if we are talking for guys who are in process or are planning to do PhD application, see if you're applying to a big lab, and if you don't have a thorough skilled experience, experimentally skilled experience for that particular research topic. Let's give you a particular example. For example, if you are applying for a cancer biology lab, which works in cancer biology, and they use animal cell culture systems to do their research. If you are not really, you do have some exposure in terms of your academic work and in terms of some small research, like 5 or 6 months of research in animal cell culture. And based on that, if you are trying to apply for that position, and if the lab is really big, if they have multiple postdocs and PhD students, there is a less chance that they would give you an importance on that thing, on particular thing that you don't have a good experience in terms of the skills. Because they do have people there, if they take you, they do have a people there to train you before you start your project. So there will be some postdoc student or some research, senior PhD students under whom you will be assigned for initial days, for first few months for your project, and then you will be left for independent work. And these labs usually publish projects publish papers in which there are multiple authors, and so it means that there are 2-3 different projects get combined, 2-3 individual projects get combined, and they form a single publication. So that is an advantage for application. But if you are trying to specifically apply for a PhD lab, which is either a small lab or a lab where you see the publications and you get to know that there are no common authors between 2 different publications. So there are 2 different papers published from the same lab, but they have different authors. It means that the same 2 projects were conducted in the same lab, but they are totally independent. It means that you will be left alone, you will be left independent when you get into such lab. So it also indirectly means that they are looking for people who are thorough with the skills initially before coming to their lab. So if you are not thorough with your skills, the skills that are required in that lab, if you are not thorough with that, if you don't have the proper experience, that drops down your acceptance rate, your acceptance probability. So again, I will go back to the same phase. Before applying, it's very, very important. I'm trying to emphasize that point again and again. Before applying, whichever lab you are applying to, you make sure you go through that lab thoroughly with that web page, with the publications, with the profile of the scientist, and try to get all the information which is not probably directly written anywhere, but you analyzing all these things. So yeah, that's the small point I would like to make.
Thank you so much.
Can I also quickly add something?
Yes, absolutely.
I won't take more than 1 minute. This is also something that I was going to say. So if you are applying to large labs, be sure, you should know that large labs usually are looking for postdocs and not for PhD students. Yeah. So they, like Anirudh said, your acceptance rate for that lab automatically drops to a certain lower level. And this is because they are well established. They just care about doing more research, publishing more. And they are taking people who are already experienced and can do the work directly from day one. They don't want to teach a lot of people. So that's the thing. And just another point is that whatever we say over here, you will see that most of the times there are 2 sides to it, because it's not going to be a linear process. It wasn't for us and it's not going to be for you. And there are no right and wrong answers over here. It has to be tailored to your situation and how you see yourself, what you want to do later. So maybe just take a note of everything and see what fits for you. There's no yes or no answer, or you won't get such answers from us at least. So
yeah, this is very important. What he's saying is very important. We are not here to give you right answers, or we are not here. Probably no one can give you right answers in this particular topic. We can just give you our experiences and whatever we have learned till now. It's up to you to decide whether it fits to your situation or not.
Right. Absolutely important this is. And I would also like to, put in some experiences of people that I have seen that, there were people in my class who wanted to apply to very, very experienced big labs. So they had a different approach with it. As they just said, the acceptance rate falls down if you directly apply it after your master's or like that. But such labs are looking for interns, are looking for summer trainees, are looking for the people who they don't have to pay, but they'll come and it is a 2-way process. The person also learns, the lab also gets someone to, contribute with the experimental or help the PhD student. But during this process, what happens is you develop a connect with the lab, with the PI, and you get you are, you get into the culture of the lab. And if you fit well, there is a high possibility that you might get accepted into the lab for PhD. Though it's a big lab, though it has a lot of people working in it, but because you have already, you are already well known to the lab, it's easier in that way. So that's also a way you can go ahead with. That is when you're doing your internships or especially your master's dissertation. Make sure you're not making a random application. You're not going into random labs just because you want to, but give it a thorough, do a thorough research, give it a very good thought, because just after your dissertation, you're going to be in a phase where you want to start your PhD. So dissertation is a real good time, real good opportunity for you to make a well-informed and good decisions. Okay. So keep that in your mind. Okay, so coming at the end of this, I would like to ask, a general question to all four of you. What is one thing that you feel is important for someone when they decide that they want to do PhD? Just a very generic question, but what do you think? What have you understood through your own journey? What was that one thing that was important that helped you make the decision and that is helping you to survive this entire journey or growing in this entire journey, not surviving? So let's start with Sonal.
I mean, what I think I want a more elaborated question. I mean, what area you want me to specify?
As in, why did you, decide to do PhD and, not a scientific reason, but what is keeping you there? We need some passion to be there, to grow in that entire process. What connects you to a research area, personal level?
What connects me to research area? So for me, doing research always interested me. Doing experiments, getting them done, getting my results, thinking more about it is something I was interested in. Immunology is complex. I always wanted to deal with immunological diseases because of why I chose immunology, which still remains as my subject of interest. And I'm very happy with what I'm doing. I'm reading the current literature. And I think because I liked it so much, that is what is keeping me in the field right now. And for me, I think.
So your interest, your passion about the field is something that is, helping you to work hard every day. Because I understand even you are facing so many difficulties. You went there and the outbreak, the pandemic came into.
Of doing a PhD, that it's not an easy journey.
Mm-hmm.
It brings you down at times. The experiments will not work even if you have taken care of everything. If you're looking back at every single step, you think it's fine, but still the experiments are not running properly, are not working properly. But I think at these times, if you really are connected to what you want to do, what your area of interest is, and you really know what you're doing, then that thing is really important to keep you going.
Okay, thank you so much. Coming to Nidhi, what do you have to say about this? What's your advice to people who are, in a phase like I should do PhD and I should not do PhD?
So for me also, I chose to do a PhD because I wanted to continue doing experiments, practical work, and research, and also I want to contribute something to the scientific community. And it's just been 1 year for my PhD, so I'm hoping that by the end of my PhD, I will be able to contribute something to the society, scientific community, and also maybe it can be used for some application based by some industries. So that was my major motivation, that I want to contribute something and just enhance the knowledge that we already have about science and in my field particularly. So I think that is what keeps me going. And by reading literature daily, just the new things which are coming up, the new advances which are there in particularly in my field. So my field is in vitro model systems. So there are many recent and exciting research going on organoids, human organoids. So by switching from animal systems to human organoids or like small small systems which are made from humans, which will be more appropriate for. So these are very good applications for drug industries. So I mean, to contribute for such a field, that in the future it can be useful, and maybe it will be more. It will enhance the process of all these drug screening processes or whatever it is. So that is my major aim, that I want to contribute something. And yeah, so that is what keeps me going. And also I like to perform experiments and go to the lab every day and do experiments, and the results when we get it, and to analyze. And it's exciting when if everything works, then yes, it makes you happy. But there will be days where it won't work and you have to optimize things for a long time. And then, but I think that is what is, I mean, the usual process for a PhD. So yeah, I think, but if you really want to do it and you just keep the end goal in your mind, that what after you finish it, when you do something which will be useful for the community, then I think it is all worth it. So yeah, so you have to be interested and to do like research and be patient to do it.
Absolutely. And one thing that you mentioned is that reading about what's happening in your particular field. So I understand many people are like, I'm not that interested into going through the literature, but I love the experiment part of it. But reading is a very, very important part of PhD, right? That you constantly have to go through so much of literature, what's happening outside, collaborating your work with it, your experiments with it, your future steps with it. So yes, I would like to say everyone that reading about, we don't do it much in our master's phase. We do avoid reading as many as paper possible. It's just the 2-3 papers that we present in the presentation. We don't even go listen to the other people presenting them. So it's very important to be in contact with what's happening around you, especially in the scientific community. Right. Thank you, Nidhi. So I'll come to Ankit. Ankit, what's your take on this? What's your one piece of advice for everyone who are in this particular situation?
What advice do you want me to give?
As
I'm
in,
sorry. I thought it was the same question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the same question. As in, what? Yeah.
I mean, if the question is same, if I understand it correctly, then it was about what drives you to do a PhD.
Right.
Okay. Then I mean, for me, it's really exciting because biology, for as of now. So I don't know how many of you might already be aware of this. There is something called the purity of science, and maths is one of the purest forms of science, where everything is abstract and predictive. Then comes physics, where there are some assumptions. It is a lot predictive, but still less pure than maths. Chemistry is a lot less purer, and biology is in another extreme end, where we are still exploring a lot of stuff, but we don't have enough predictive power. For example, using equations from physics, we have engineering. We can build stuff with very high accuracy and stuff. With biology, as of now, it hasn't been possible to do such things like building the whole cell or something like that. And we are at a point in time where we can use everything we learned from maths, physics, computer science. Because biology is so complex, you need computation to be able to make predictive models of what we see from biology. A lot of people have done amazing experiments, and we have tremendous amounts of data, but we don't know how we can still build a predictive model. We can't predict the behavior of a cell. We can't still make models that completely explain how a cell would respond to a set of environmental stimuli. But this is a major paradigm shift that we are seeing right now. And I am extremely excited to be part of that. And I want to be in the frontier of one of these people who are working on this to build a predictive model of the cell. So I think that just drives me or motivates me to continue in this field. But other than that, maybe, I guess definitely this is, people would ask, why do you need a predictive model of the cell? Because this is going to, because ultimately this is going to be very useful for us in general, for a lot of things, from medicine to industrial applications and everything. If you know how a cell is going to behave, and if you know how a population of cells are going to behave, in turn, how an organism is going to behave, then you have so much control, like an engineer would have, on building structures. Then we could do something with the knowledge that we have already acquired from biology and build stuff or use them for translational research for medicine. I think, yeah, that's what's exciting. That drives me, I would say.
That's really, really inspirational, Ankit. And thank you so much for sharing that with us. And coming to Anirudh, the same question. What's your drive? What's your advice? Why are you here? Why are you in this field?
Well, for me, if you're, I take it as a two small different questions. One is what drives me till here, and what advice I can give to all the audience here based on that drive that I have. The drive, talking about the drive, I had no idea what PhD is till the time I was in school. I thought every doctor that is there before the initials that are there before every first name is a medical person who can help me when I'm ill. I had no idea a doctorate is a specific type of degree, highest degree available, education available in any field you can take basically. So when I came in my high school, 11th and 12th, then I started getting, and of course that was the turning point in my life. So the time when I was absolutely sure that yes, I'm not going to stop at masters, I'm not going to stop, was in middle of my masters, I would say. I had the idea that I will definitely go to PhD, but the time when I was absolutely sure, and that was because it would sound a little bit philosophical, but that's the way it happened. I asked myself whether I want to be a person who will use science or I want to be a person who will generate new science. And I think scientific researchers are the only people on this earth who can generate new science. Every other scientific occupation or field uses that science to make different things work. It might be biological thing, it might be a engineering thing, it might be totally different. But so that's the reason what I got from myself, that yes, I want to be a person who will generate new science. It might be a small little piece. My ultimate goal is to see even a small little addition into the book of science, the so-called book of science we have. A small single word addition or a single letter addition from my side will satisfy this goal of my life. So that's the drive that I have in me, which is still very active in me, and that's the reason why I'm still continuing in this field. The advice that I will give is, Ankit said a very beautiful thing, and I would just say it in a slightly different way. He talked about the purity of the science. I would say the age of the science. Both means the same. Maths, physics, these are some of the oldest sciences. They have been going on since humans started understanding dimensions. Then came chemistry. When humans started understanding mixtures, they found out that two different pure things can be mixed and a third thing can be formed. Whereas biology is the youngest science, we have just probably explored the tip of the iceberg, I would say, in terms of biology. So the centuries that has passed and the century that has started now was still ruled by these old sciences. Maths, especially 1900 and 1800 centuries, has been ruled by maths, physics, and to some extent chemistry as well. Chemistry is still there, and we have a lot yet to explore in that. But still, it is comparatively elder to biology. But the century that has started now, and the coming years will be totally ruled by biology, because we have just started to know things a little bit. Just take an example of this year. We had a pandemic everywhere. And the only news that you can see everywhere is about how scientists are working to get the vaccine, and how scientists are working to get a better rapid testing method, to get a better medicine on this particular pandemic disease. So that gives me motivation, and probably it will give it to every person who wants to do research. So I would just say, if you sit down and if you ask yourself that there is going to be a lot of difficult times, there is going to be a lot of challenges if you want to go to higher studies in scientific research, but will you able to overcome those challenges and satisfy your goal. And what is your goal? Is it making new science or using different sciences to just continue your career? So that's one philosophical thing I would say. One practical small little thing I will add is the harsh reality is everyone gets educated to earn money. You have to be frank with yourself. You don't at the age of your 20s, in late 20s or in early 30s, you cannot bluff yourself that no, I will live my career for philosophical goals. And no, you have responsibilities, your families are dependent on yourself. So the most important priority is you have to earn money, and you have to earn good amount of money to make sure that everything works smoothly. Fortunately, till now we have good opportunities in biological sciences that can give you good money. Even that is more better outside India. In India, the competition, because we have such huge population, competition is very high. That's the reason why even pay scales and everything get dropped. So if you really work hard, you will be earning sufficient amount of money to make sure that if you live a happy, healthy, successful, prosperous life. So yeah, whatever we said, all four of us, and even you added into it, here we are not trying to just boost our audience's motivation for philosophical things. It's for practical use. So you go outside for a PhD, or you remain in India and you do your PhD. PhD is going to enhance your career at every level: financial level, intellectual level, philosophical level, every level. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Ankit. So I think we have.
Ankit?
Yes, Ankit.
No, I mean, no. Okay. What I meant was, so yeah. Also, maybe this is something we didn't touch upon at all, which is very important. What Anirudh just pointed out, the financial aspect of this. Sorry, I won't take more than 1 minute. Start the timer.
Absolutely.
So,
yes.
yeah. Okay. So what I want to say is that you will earn sufficient money is also the keyword that Anirudh used. You will earn sufficient money to have a good life. You won't be a billionaire. If you are hoping for that, then look elsewhere. Don't do science. Don't try to get a PhD then. Unless you get a PhD, then also open tons of your own companies. All of them are as good as SpaceX and Tesla, and then you become a billionaire. But how many people can do that? So think about that.
Right. So even adding to this particular thing, because it's been mentioned, the finances. So, there are I've learned that there are these 3 pillars where you should always have this in your mind. If, everyone wants to earn well. No one is doing charity in the world. Yes, we have different priorities. We do want to contribute, but we don't want to contribute for free. Everyone wants to have a financial good life for themselves. But we need to keep in this thing in this mind is that the first priority always has to be, serving people. Whatever you do, whichever career you're choosing, research you're choosing, administrative, anything that you're going for, your scientific writing, patents, that everything that we discussed, the first thing you need to have clear in your mind is you need to serve people. Because when you're doing this and when this is accomplished, you are going to be happy. When you're happy, you're going to be productive. And when this happens, you are going to earn well. So this is a cycle that goes on, and it cannot, you cannot break this cycle that, okay, only when the thing that I'm doing makes me happy, I will serve. And, only when I get money, I will serve. It won't happen that way. So if you see around you, only when you serve, you're happy, you're productive, and then you earn money. Finances are going to be byproduct of whatever you're doing. So that's why I mentioned that, understand if you are really into the outcome. Are you really passionate about the outcome? Only then, when you are interested in it, you're going to be passionate about it, you're going to be productive, and finances are going to be the byproduct. Okay, so if you guys have any questions, we are open for questions. So I have read all the questions which I got from you guys. Apart from this, if you have anything to ask, we have last 5 minutes. I will take in some questions if you have any. So we'll wait for certain questions, and in that time, if you guys want to say some last notes, some endpoints, something, if anyone wants to. No one wants to. Okay.
If till the time, if anyone has any question, I would say, well, first of all, thanks to you. It was really a good session. I wish we had such sessions when we were applying for PhDs. because I can understand, and I totally imagine my situation, and probably even these guys will be imagining their situations when they were going through this phase of application, that how confusing things are. And you get a lot of advices from a lot of people. Even now we are giving a lot of advices to you guys. Do this, do that, look into lab profiles, look into scientific profiles, look into publications, prepare your SOPs, don't do bulk emailings and all those things. But one thing is very sure, that ultimately you should learn to listen to your mind and brain. You should believe in your grasping power. You should believe in your intelligence. You should believe in your capacity. And if you learn that, if you learn to believe in yourself, not just application for a PhD, but even your PhD process, your whole entire journey through your PhD will be very easy, or comparatively much easier. Because if you think this is the only confusing phase in PhD, you're wrong. Confusion starts from application but keeps on increasing by a logarithmic level when you enter into PhD. You're ultimately most confused when you hand over your thesis to your supervisor, whether I should give it or not, whether I'm complete or not. So it goes in a logarithmic way. So confusion is all the way with you, like a baggage. So get prepared with that. But yeah, the easiest solution to it is listen to everyone, but ultimately believe in your thinking and believe in your intelligence.
Absolutely.
Maybe I can also.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So I think, I guess we spoke so much about PhD. So people who are still undecided about PhD, and if you think this is the last application process that you have to do, even after your PhD, you have to apply every time for getting a postdoc. After that, let's say you get a tenure track. Again, it's not like industry, or you are never going to get, you can get a permanent position. It's very difficult, and especially very difficult in a good institute. So you have to be prepared to have multiple tenure tracks. So this is like a 5-year term or 4-year terms, depends on which country you are. You have to keep applying, not only for where you have a tenure track, but also separately for funding. So there are a lot of applications, and just getting a PhD does not guarantee you a professorship, let's say, a stable professorship, let's say. So if you know all these things and you still decide to be in the academic career, doing research, that's great. It's a field for you then. But if you are doubtful, maybe you should check a little more before you jump into the train directly. Just be sure of these things, because I have seen quite a few people who are confused after the PhD, or even during their PhD or before, just like it is everywhere. Make sure you know what you are getting into before you do it. Again, I don't want to discourage anything, but I want to lay the facts straight so that you know what you're getting into. And even after all these things, if you still think that this is something that really interests you, then congratulations, this is a field for you. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. So I hope this session was really good and really informative for all the participants, and they have taken out a lot of value from this and something that they can put into action. So at the end, I would like to thank Sonal, Nidhi, Ankit and Anirudh for actually taking out time. I know you're doing PhDs and it's really intense out there. So you have actually taken out 1.5 hours for everyone, and it was absolutely brilliant. And thank you everyone for being here, and we'll have such sessions in future, and you also can recommend us if you want to have sessions on certain particular topics. We will surely arrange them, and this is going to be something that we'll be in contact and related for a long time. And apart from this, if you have any questions, you can contact me. You all have my email IDs. Today I had sent everyone an email out for today's session, so you can reply me back on those email IDs if you have any questions. If it's that in my scope, I will surely reply and try and help you. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay. Thanks a lot for listening to us. See you.
See you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.